Things are getting exciting over at Under Armour as they are listening to feedback and iterating quickly. This is the Infinite Elite 2. It resolves just about every issue I had with the first version, and it will likely be the most underrated shoe of the year. Yo, what's going on? My name is Kafuzi and I'm an elite runner who reviews running shoes here on YouTube. And today I want to talk to you guys about the Under Armour Infinite Elite 2. But before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that was sent to me for the purpose of review, so I didn't have to pay for them. However, nobody's paying me to make this video or to include their brand in this video, and no one's gonna get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Infinite Elite 2, and let's start with the specs. This is a 36mm stack height shoe with an 8mm drop, giving us 26mm of stack height in the forefoot. And in this midsole, we've got one component, and it's an updated version of Under Armour's Hover Plus. And the way that they've tinkered with the formulation of the Hover Plus is they've tweaked it to make it lighter and airier. Also, to try and reduce weight is that they removed the TPU heel clip that used to be at the back of this shoe. They've also made some changes to the upper to kind of strip further away anything that wasn't necessary. They've even made the pull tab a little bit smaller. There is a neoprene tongue on this shoe that is very comfortable and not too excessively padded. It's actually pretty thin, which I appreciate. And there is a small amount of padding throughout the heel collar and heel cup. I feel like a lot of shoes in this class are kind of just over puffy, over padded. So I really appreciate the restraint that they used in designing this shoe. Moving further forward on the shoe towards the toes, we have a nice and comfortable mesh. It's very breathable and very comfortable. There aren't too many large logos on the side of this shoe, which I take as a plus. There's a little Under Armour here at the top of the laces, and there is kind of a color matched larger Under Armour logo that's kind of camouflaged in the red portion of the shoe. So there is a lot of Under Armour branding if you want it, but if you don't necessarily want it, it kind of stays tucked away and out of the way. Moving to the outsole of this shoe, we have a very similar outsole pattern that we saw last year. There still is some room for exposed midsole foam in order to cut weight, but where they do have rubber is on some of the high wear areas, and it's also very thick in those areas. And put all together, this shoe came in about an ounce lighter than last year, which I think is a significant improvement. My US men's size 9 came in at a measured weight of 10.4 ounces or 294 grams. Now that we've talked about what the shoe is like on paper, let's talk about what it's like on the road. I gotta say, I am absolutely loving the changes that Under Armour made to the Infinite Elite 2. There's a great amount of cushion to this shoe. It's so comfy underfoot, but the foam is also nice and airy and springy, so it can certainly serve as a max cushion shoe. I use it on a recovery run, and it was perfect for when I just wanted to be comfortable and I didn't really worry about the pace. But the shoe has that springiness, and now it's light enough that it can also serve as your daily trainer, the shoe that you're reaching for on most of your runs for most of the days of the week. But I think that the real magic in terms of what they've been able to accomplish with the Infinite Elite 2 is that it's also good at picking up the pace. Now, this isn't a shoe that's going to or even trying to replace my carbon plated racing shoes or something that I'm going to be reaching for my hardest road or track workouts. But if I have a situation where there's some strides at the end of a run, or if I'm taking it for a tempo run or a long run with some speedier miles within that long run, I feel like the Under Armour Infinite Elite 2 is certainly up to the challenge. So it's a really great long run shoe option as well, especially if you're looking to do more of your long runs not in carbon plates. Now, in terms of fit, I felt like the shoe is pretty forgiving in terms of sizing. I went true to size with my normal running shoe size in the Infinite Elite 2, and it worked really well for me. But overall, I feel like the shoe is very baggy, and this upper is a drastic change to the over-structured, over-knit upper that we saw last year. Now, I love a good knit upper, but this was just kind of like a lot of stuff going on, and it didn't really feel like a comfortable knit in version 1. So I'm happy to see that the changes they made for version 2, it's Very streamlined, very simple. Also very much in line with the changes that they made to the Under Armour Sonic, the daily trainer in the lineup, where it's a very simple, very straightforward upper. Almost too simple in a lot of ways. I get the sense sometimes in this shoe, especially when I think about some of its competition, I get the sense of this shoe in the Infinite Elite 2 that it's kind of just like foot in a bag, and I wouldn't mind a little bit more precision in terms of making the shoe fit well. I don't need the shoe to be snug. I don't need it to be tight. I just need it to be a little bit more tailored and intentional. But for people who want their uppers a little bit more loose, a little bit more stretchy, the Infinite Elite is going to be really nice. The main problem that I have with this shoe though is that it is an ugly shoe. And of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I just feel like there's so much that's left to be desired with the design of this shoe, especially when I look at it while I'm wearing it from the top down view. It just looks really awkward and almost clownish, but I'm willing to overlook all of that because of the way that this shoe performs. Before we wrap up the video, let's take a moment to zoom out and see where the Infinite Elite 2 sits within the broader Under Armour lineup. Now, whenever I take a look at a brand, I always like to start at the daily trainer, and for Under Armour, that is the Sonic version 7. This is another shoe that I recently reviewed that I was pleasantly surprised with the changes that Under Armour made to it. It's a shoe that you could reach for most of your runs. It's got a really nice cushion but responsive midsole in there, and especially if you're on the shorter mileage side, I feel like this is a really good fit for a lot of people, especially at its $110 price point. But if you need something that has a little bit more cushion than that, or if you're running higher mileage weeks and you want a little bit more comfort and protection from the road, that's where the Infinite Elite 2 fits in. This is not only like the max cushion shoe in the lineup, but it also is a shoe that I would take for my long runs if I'm building an Under Armour rotation. And then for racing, where I would go is with the Velocity Elite 2. Now, this is a shoe that uses some beaded Piba foam and their Flow midsole, a rubberized EVA, so you don't even need rubber on the outsole for this shoe. And it has a carbon fiber plate, so it's suitable for racing, but also I would use it for all of your hard workouts as well, because the way that they've built this shoe, I think it's got high durability to it, so it's not like a lot of other racing shoes where you're worrying about using up the miles in your eraser. Now, there is a shoe that kind of fits between the Sonic and the Velocity Elite, and that's the Velocity. I think it used to be called the Flow Velocity Wind back when I first started testing them. But I think because of the fact that this is a bit on the firmer side and built for a lot of durability with the Velocity Elite, I think that you can use this in that spot and save yourself another shoe in the rotation. And so this is the 3 shoe rotation that I would recommend from Under Armour. Now let's wrap up the video by going over the buying guide, and we'll also discuss some alternatives. The Under Armour Infinite Elite is an excellent long run shoe that can handle everything from recovery run, daily training, all the way up to your speedy long run workouts. I think it's the most significant shoe that Under Armour has made to date. And if they continue with this momentum, I think Under Armour can really make an impact in performance run. And at $160, I think this shoe is priced extremely competitively. There is a version 1 that's still available at third-party retailers, and you can usually find it at a discount to about $120. But I think that these are substantially different shoes, and unless you're one of my bigger, taller friends, I'm really going to recommend that you skip the version 1 and head directly to Infinite Elite version 2. But let's take a look at some of the competition to see where some of this performance and pricing stacks up. I think the first shoe that we have to take a look at is the shoe that, in my mind, must have been what Under Armour had in its sights when it was looking to retool the Infinite Elite 2. And that comes from the Swoosh, and this is the Invincible Run 3. I think these two shoes are trying to do the exact same thing, and they are trying to do it in very similar ways. These are both shoes that are highly cushioned and look like they can be super squishy, super chill max cushion shoes, but under the hood, or at least in the midsole, they've got some compounds in there that are going to be not only comfortable, but also resilient and springy so that you could take them for some of those speedier long run workouts. I do think that the Invincible Run 3 is a bit firmer of an experience, and also the angle of attack on that shoe just really has me feeling like I'm getting pushed up onto my toes. So it's a very different ride position, but while I think the Infinite Elite 3 does everyday and recovery paces a lot better, I do think that the Invincible Run is much better still at doing long runs with some speedy miles in them. So depending on what you're looking for, that can push you one way or the other. The retail for the Invincible Run 3 is $180, which is quite a bit more expensive than the Infinite Elite, but I think you can usually find it on sale at third-party retailers, respectable ones, at as low as $130, and I think that's a pretty compelling price. And then the other shoe that I think we should compare it to is another shoe that I think is trying to do a similar thing as the Infinite Elite 2, but it's doing it in a very different way. And this is from New Balance. This is the Balos. Now, this shoe also is intended for longer runs, and I think with some speedier miles in them, so it's not a straight up recovery run max cushion shoe. And I think that the Balos is a much softer experience, a much more squishy experience, but overall somehow it feels like there's less cushion underfoot. I feel like I'm getting closer to bottoming out in the Balos than I do in the Infinite Elite. So my bigger, taller friends should certainly go with the Infinite Elite 2 in this situation. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit more comfortable, but just as peppy, I think the Balos could be a very interesting option for you. Plus, that upper has that level of structured fit that I'm looking for that feels tailored but not tight. You will be paying quite a premium to get into the Balos though, because that shoe retails at $200. So those are my thoughts on the Infinite Elite 2. Very happy to see such dramatic improvements coming from Under Armour. Hopefully they can keep it up. If you have any other questions about this shoe or any of the shoes that I talked about today, feel free to put them in the comments down below, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Mondays and Thursdays over on the Kofuzi Run Club channel. I'd love to talk to you guys over there in the chat. That's all for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?